Okay, today I'm going to show you how I made this bowl out of little slices of tree, and the curvature of this bowl is an entirely natural process. So let's see how we made it. I picked up these logs nearby where they've been coppicing some hazel trees. It's about 10 centimetres in diameter, and I was going to try some green wood turning with this, and so I had to slice a really thin piece off of one end to square it up. And the piece I sliced off did an interesting thing, because I left it flat on the table and it dried out quicker on one side than the other, and as a result it's actually turned into a very tiny little shallow dish. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to cut a whole bunch of these and then we'll see what we can make out of them. So to begin with, I need to lose a little bit off of that end just to get down to a fresh bit of green timber. There we go. And so I can feel that the timber is actually quite wet inside there, but that's exactly what I want. So now it's just a case of getting this nice and secure and then cutting a series of perhaps 2 or 3 millimetre slices very carefully off the end. That's what we're looking for. Not exactly as even as I might have liked, but it doesn't really matter. We'll see how we get on with that. To make sure that I keep the saw nice and straight and upright and cut, and I don't start off on the wrong angle, I'm using a technique similar to what a chef uses guiding a knife in the kitchen. So what I do, curl my fingertips in and just use the knuckle there to guide the saw. All the sharp parts of the saw can't get to the delicate parts of my finger. My fingers act as a guide against the smooth part of the blade to keep it nice and upright while we get the cut started. Greenwood's actually quite nice to cut. The moisture tends to make it cut nice and smoothly and keep the blade running nice and cool without binding. So I can actually feel the moisture content of this wood. It's quite significant. It feels damp. Okay, that was harder work than I imagined, and I haven't got as many pieces as I want, but I think for the purposes of the experiment I want to conduct, that's probably enough there. So let's have a look. 5, 10, 15, about probably 20 or 25 slices. That'll be fine. Right, back indoors now. So I've got all of my slices of wood here, and I'm going to lay them flat on this piece of plastic. The plastic has two purposes. One is just to stop the table getting stained, but the other is that it's going to stop the wood drying so fast on the underside as it does on the top. And I'm actually going to accentuate the effect we're looking for here by just very gently sponging the bottom side of these slices of wood with a bit of water, just to wet them down a little bit, because I actually want them to dry fast on the top and slower underneath. Okay, here we are after 2 days, and the little slices of wood already feel a lot drier and lighter, and look what's happened to them. If you can see that, they're definitely concave, so they're turning into little dish shapes. Okay, so here we are a week later, and all my little wooden discs have gone concave, some a little bit more so than others, but never mind. So what I need to do now is sand these down, and so I'm going to use a flap wheel disc for the insides because they're concave. I've got to get inside there. It's a little bit coarser grit than I would have liked, but that's the finest grit I could find. So, on with the gloves. Never attempt anything without the gloves. how we got on. Oh, that actually feels quite good. That's nice and smooth. It's not taken all of the marks out, the saw marks, but it's smoothed off the timber, that's fine. So now we need to sand the outsides. So change a tool from this one. We'll go from the flat wheel to a sanding disc. Right, so having sanded all of these little wooden discs, or rather little wooden dishes, to smooth them out, this is the point where we try and make something useful out of them. So I've brushed the dust off them, and I've sorted them into 3 piles. These are the very concave ones. These are ones where they have actually deformed quite a lot. These are not quite so deformed, and these have stayed almost flat. Alright, so here we go. Let's have a look. So I could glue these flattish ones directly onto there. That'll be the base of my bowl. I think that'll work. So let's start here. Hold it nice and tight while it dries. Blob there. One on like that. Okay, and that one on there like that, and there we begin. You can actually almost see the bowl shape taking shape already. Well, as you can see, it's a little bit messy with the glue, which I need to trim up, but there's already a distinct bowl shape forming there. It's definitely looking like a bowl, isn't it? It's very good. So here's our finished bowl, and it's really lovely and light because it's hazelwood, which is quite not a very dense wood, but it's strong and it just feels really nice. It's not perfect. I've made a few little mistakes, so there's a gap there, there's an overlap there, some of the pieces don't overlap the right way. I think as a proof of concept I'm really happy with that, so I'm going to try this again and be a bit more careful now I know it works. And I think that would be quite nice as a fruit bowl because it allows a bit of circulation of air and so on. So there we go. That is my wood slice bowl. Okay, so the question is, why does wood curl up like that when it's dried? So the wood of most trees is composed of longitudinal fibres that run all the way up and down the trunk of the tree. And so wood will tend to expand and contract across that grain. It won't get longer and shorter, it will get wider and thinner. So let me see if I can demonstrate that with this visual aid. So this represents a piece of wood. It can expand and contract that way, and it will tend to expand when it's wet and contract when it's dry. But it can't expand and contract this way along the grain. So let's have a look at what happens when we take a very thin section of that wood. So this represents our little slice of a tree, and as you can see it can expand and contract that way. As it gets wet it will, or from its natural moisture, it will expand, and as it dries it will contract. So what we did is we forced it to dry quickly on one side and slowly on the other side. And so what it's done is it's contracted quickly on the top but not so quickly on the bottom, and that's caused the wood to deform into a curved shape like that. And so that's why that's done that.